Welcome to the Q.A.C. Team podcast series with your host, Charles Luttrell. Our series features leaders and business owners in your community discussing the customer experience, employee satisfaction, and performance improvement. Our series will help share strategic ideas for coaching and mentoring through mystery shopping in a post-pandemic economy. And now here's your host, Charles Luttrell.
Okay, everyone. I am here with Gladys. Gladys, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So tell us about who you are and what you do.
I'm Gladys Springsteel. My husband John and I both own and operate 410 Empanadas food truck. It's actually a trailer, but on paper, it's actually still considered a truck. And we opened our windows February 16th of 2018. So this February will be 5 years. And I can't believe it's been 5 years.
Oh, wow. 5 years.
Yeah.
Wow. And I noticed is it orange?
Yes, she's orange. So
It's a she.
yeah.
She's
Oh,
orange.
her name is Greta. Her name is on the side there in vinyl.
Great.
And yes, we wanted to name it 410, like the Orioles O.
OH for O.
Yes, unfortunately, that O is trademarked, and we couldn't do it, so we just left it as 410 or 410 empanadas. But they said we could copy the orange Orioles color, so we did. So at
Right.
least we got the orange for the Orioles because we are diehard Orioles fans.
Oh, that's great. Well, you can't copyright a color because it's just.
Well, yes, no, you're right. Well, that's why they say, well, you can have the color, but you can't have the O. Okay,
Right.
got it.
I see that.
Understood. I don't want to get sued.
Okay, you don't want to get sued.
Nope.
Absolutely. And you've been in business for 5 years.
Yes.
So why did you decide to be a business owner? What gave you that spark?
I'll be very honest with you, with my husband. So I have a full-time job. I work in the marine engineering field with oil.
Wow.
I can't say much about that, but that's the field I'm in. And I've been doing that for 26 years. And my husband, he is a machine mechanic. And when we left, my company decided to move us to Virginia Beach. So we moved there in 2011. Then they moved us up to Baltimore in 2013. And at that time, we decided, you know what? Let him retire early. He was barely 50 years old, but he retired. And he was watching the boys because we had all our family in Jersey. We were just here by ourselves, just me and him and our twin boys, because our older son was out in college in California. And so they were, 13, the boys, 13 or 10, 11, something like that. I forget how old they were. So he was pretty much a stay-at-home dad while I worked. And then he got a little older. He started doing some, little work, Tractor Supply. He worked for a little while. And then he was doing landscaping. And the happiest, most laid back, nothing bothered him man that I fell in love with and we got married was coming home grouchy, in a bad mood, hated life, all because of this one job that he had. So I said, no, we're done. I said, we are not going to do that. I said, we are going to do something about it. So we decided to take our savings and open a business. Now, the thing is, what were we going to do? Well, working at Tractor Supply, every Thanksgiving, they had this potluck dinner. So my husband would say, hey, why don't you make some of your empanadas and bring them in so they could all enjoy them? So that's exactly what I did. I made 100 of the smaller ones. And it got to the point where people were like, hey, can I buy these from you? And I'm thinking, yeah, okay, sure. So I'd make 20 here, a couple dozen there. And it got to the point like, well, what other fillings do you have? What else can I buy from you? And one lady says, why don't you guys open a food truck? And I'm thinking, yeah, right. I'm going to open a food truck. Well, sure enough, it was months. That was November. And then that that summer, we placed an order for a trailer. Back then, it only took a couple of weeks. Not like now, it'll take you a few years.
Ugh.
And we picked her up. It was July, August of 2017. My husband started working on it. He built the food truck by himself. Started in September when the boys started school, and then by December we got our permit, and February we opened our windows. So that's where it started, literally.
Wow. Now, when you say smaller empanadas, is there like Are they different sizes? I didn't know there were different sizes.
Yeah, well, standard empanadas are 5 inches. That's standard across the board. Most countries will make them 5 inches. It's um, some, I've been to Miami. I'm part Cuban, so we'll have some kind of link to Miami. Down there, sometimes they roll out the dough a little thinner but bigger, so they're huge. But you're eating a lot of dough, not a lot of filling. I had these little uh, disc cutters. Disc is the dough that wraps around the filling.
Uh-huh.
So I had a set of cutters, like mini 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, and 5 inch. So to make 100 at them back then, it was a lot on me because I wasn't used to making that much. I used a little 3 inch cutter, and I made 3 inch empanadas to bring to my husband's company for them to eat. But standard across the board, they are 5 inches. Some people will make them a little bigger.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, 5 inches is standard, and that's our size. I try to be as standard and traditional as possible, with
Right.
with exceptions, of course.
Right. Now, 3-inch empanadas, would that be considered like finger food if I had to like
I guess,
categorize it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, yes. A lot of people still consider my empanadas finger food, but I mean, we fill them till we can't no more, so they're pretty full. We have what I call the three for special, and we do three for because a 3 pack because most people will eat three and be very very full.
Yeah.
So it depends. I mean, I had a young girl one time. She was a little inebriated, and she stood by my food truck, and she stood there for about an hour, and she threw down on 9 of them. And so somehow she was able to fit nine inside of her, in her stomach at one given time. I've never seen that much eaten at once, but it's, so yeah, yeah.
Empanada eating contest.
I'm telling you, we've never had one, but we just might have.
That sounds interesting. Yes, that would be great.
Yeah,
Empanada eating contest.
that would be interesting.
Right. Man, that sounds great.
We have 33 different fillings. I will tell you that we do have 33 different fillings, and that doesn't include the dessert ones that we have.
Now we have to
However,
get a. Now you have to understand. So you have to stop taking my questions away from me
sorry.
because I was going to say. So how many different ways can you make an empanada?
Yeah, well, you can make empanadas really two ways. You can either fry them or bake them. Traditional South American empanadas are baked.
Okay.
Empanadas did, however, a lot of people say, "Oh, it's Mexican." No, by far is it Mexican. Mexico was actually probably one of the last countries to incorporate the empanada into their menu. They originated in Spain, which I am also part Spaniard.
Uh-huh.
So they originated in Spain. It's a tapas, which means like a finger food. You know,
Oh,
so
okay.
that is
Okay.
so that is definitely one of the infamous or famous finger foods in Spain is empanadas. So, but all over South America they have them, and there's this one that is made in Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, Argentina, Chile, Peru, Ecuador. It's one that has a ground beef filling with olives, either green or black. There is a difference. Egg, boiled egg, and raisins. And I know, you hear these three things and you're thinking, what do you mean? Eggs, olives,
Oh,
raisins. That's disgusting. And
what?
believe me, as a child, I was like, no way am I eating that. I promise, Chuck, it works. It works. It is a
Wow.
fusion that actually you bite into it, and it's dynamic. It really is. It's absolutely, it just works. They
Yeah.
figured it out, and we do have that one on my menu as well.
Uh-huh.
And I have to admit, it is one of my biggest sellers. People like to try a lot of traditional or a lot of authentic food, and that is the most authentic one we have is what I call the authentic Peruvian. And all the other fillings that we have are kind of like our creation. Someone will tell me, "Oh, why don't you have a pulled pork one?" Okay, come
Ah,
back next week. I will have one.
right.
And why don't you have this? Why don't you have that? And I'll be honest with you, going up and down, different restaurants, going up and down the aisles of the supermarkets, I just get little ideas
Right.
and start creating them at home just to test with us.
Right.
And then it takes a while. It takes a while. And believe me, I've had to pull a lot from my menu that I just did not like. And but for the most part, we will carry about 13 to 14 at a time on the truck. She is small. She's 6 by 12. She's not very big. So there's only so much we can carry inside the trailer. But, we definitely
Right.
do carry a good variety.
Right. And that was my next question was going to be because you're talking about, people asking for something and you try to make it.
Hmm.
Now that doesn't like get in the way of your profit margins and stuff. And there's a few restaurants who get caught up in that. Hey, why don't you have snowballs? Why don't you have this? Why don't you have that? And next thing you know, they got a menu like a diner with like 300 items.
Well, that's typical Jersey right there. Typical Jersey diner is like it's like the Bible in front of
Okay.
you for a menu, and they will make it fresh for you on the spot. Well, here's the thing. I'm not trained by any means. I don't have a chef certification or degree or however that works with me. I've just always cooked. I've always liked cooking. I like the taste of food. I like the way I can put things together and create something. I cannot tell you the last time I followed a recipe because I just work on the fly. I watched my mom, my grandmother, my aunts all cook growing up, and it's just something I just. Baking is another story. Can I bake? Yes. Have I baked? Yes. Will I bake? Do I want to? No.
No.
But cook anytime. Just give me 2, 3 items. Oh, I love watching Chopped on the Food Network.
Uh-huh.
Oh, because like they give you these weird ingredients. I'm like, oh, this is what I would make. I'd make blah 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 blah. And I love doing stuff like that. So I like
Right.
now. Will it affect my profit margins? Not really, because I will tell you, after 5 years and cooking for over 35 years, I've been cooking. Um, I use only certain products. So, for instance, I will not and cannot use, say, steak in my empanadas. I have to use for instance, chuck. We have to cook it for about 8 hours and we shred it. And we can't use things like anything really heavy like beans, because the problem is we freeze our empanadas. Okay, so we make them fresh, our commissary in Joppa,
Uh-huh.
and then we freeze them. And the reason why we freeze them is because I don't have the space for refrigeration in my truck. Freezers are a lot more accommodating for
Okay.
us. So we freeze them, and then as you come to my window and you order them, my husband pulls them out of the freezer, and then we fry them, and within 5 minutes it's fresh. And when we first opened 5 years ago, we were making 50, 60, maybe 65 a week, and that would sustain us because our sales were so low.
Right.
Today, we're making between 240 to 270 a day, and I still can't keep up with demand.
Wow, that's
Um,
impressive. That's
yeah, it is. It is. And
wow.
mind you, we enclose, we make one by hand, every single one. There's no machine.
Uh-huh.
There's no, easy way. They're all we bought several presses from Argentina. We had them imported. And that's what we use. And my husband literally makes them one by one. I make all the fillings.
Uh-huh.
I leave work, I go straight to Joppa, I make my fillings, I refrigerate it at commissary. Next morning, my husband goes down there, he makes them, freezes them, and depending on the event, we load up and we go. And that's the way we make.
Right.
Um, I cannot use things. For instance, I'm going to give you an example. We have one called the Tex-Mex. When we first opened, it was chicken thigh cut up and seasoned with black beans and corn and rice and all these Mexican flavors, right?
Sounds so good.
It sounds great. It was delicious and it was great the moment I enclosed it and fried it. But the moment I froze it,
Yeah.
because I have to test them the way you're going to get them. So
Right.
we froze them, waited a day, went to fry them, and no matter how long I cooked it, that thick piece of chicken and those dense beans just would not get hot enough. So
Yeah.
you would bite into it, and most parts were hot, but the beans in the center were cold. So then I had to revamp. Okay, now what do I change?
What do I
So
change?
right. So now
Yeah.
we still use chicken, but we use breast, and now we shred all our chicken. That
Shred
way,
it.
it's
Right.
shredded, it cooks and warms up better. Same
Yeah.
thing with the beef. So we do use 100% beef. It's usually like a chuck, kind of top round with a lot of fat, and we shred it, or we use ground beef, which is what really helps keep it nice and hot, and it'll reheat perfectly. Everything's fully cooked before they get frozen. Nothing's raw, and it's great. It works out. So if somebody were like you, like if you told me, oh, would you put this on your menu? First of all, I'd have to see, can I make it? You know what I mean? I don't
Right.
want to just say, like, I've never really cooked Indian food per se.
Hmm.
So, somebody said, why don't you make a butter chicken one? Sounds
Hmm.
great. I've had it. I love butter chicken. I think it's delicious, but it's something I'd have to first test before, and then have a good friend of mine who was an Indian food connoisseur have her test it and say, hey, is this as close to your authentic, or because I don't want to just make it to say I made it. I want to make
Right.
it and be as close
A
to
product.
the authenticity as possible
Yeah.
before putting it on my menu. I never want to be told, oh, look, well, she tried, you know. No, I
Right.
want to make it, like my Korean barbecue beef. It
Mm.
is authentic bulgogi sauce that I make from scratch. And I learned it from a Korean lady.
See, that's smart. You when you have these different ideas, you learn it from somebody that knows it. It's their
Yeah.
industry, it's what they do, right?
Yeah.
So when you talk about freezing these, does that affect the quality of the product? I'm just curious when you freeze it and you fry it.
Absolutely not. Because,
That's great.
see, when we were first making our empanadas, when I was making 50, 60, 65 a week, I used to, the
Uh huh.
shell, the outside part.
Uh
I
huh.
used to make it myself because it was just small batches. But honestly, with working full time and making us, up to almost 300 a day, because we make each tray holds 30, and we make 8, 9, 10 trays a day, depending on what we have to catch up on in inventory. I just don't have the power or the time to make that amount of dough on a daily basis and still keep it fresh. So we have partnered with Goya, and they now supply us with the discs that we need, because the shell's called a disc. They supply us with the discs that we need, and we buy about, I don't know, 10, 12 cases a week. We go through, each case holds 240 empanadas that we can make, and we buy that many per week. And it's great because this way I don't have to worry about me making. And plus, the dough now stays consistent. It's the same dough.
Right.
Okay. So that's how I keep my dough consistent, as I said. And so we will keep that relationship with Goya going as long as I can. Maybe one day, I don't know, maybe I'll resort going back to making my own dough, but it is a bit much. So we like the arrangement we have right now with that.
Yeah, and I was going to ask. I, I'm sure it's a process of making your own dough because it's like so time consuming, right?
Yeah.
So much that
Yeah,
goes into it.
absolutely.
Yeah, and does it take like hours for the dough to set and rise and all that stuff, or am I wrong on the wrong path?
Yeah. Well, the first time I started making it, about, I don't know, 20 years ago, I made this one batch for a party I was having at home. I did the mistake and I did do it like regular bread. I put yeast for it to rise. And that was the wrong way to go. I don't use, it's just basically, it's just dough, water, some oil. And it's pretty much it. I don't use the yeast made it rise and it was great. But when I went to fry it, it was more like, I don't know if you ever heard or eaten fry bread, which is like, or like in Jersey, we have Zeppelis, with, little puff balls of dough that you fry and you put sugar on. It was very doughy. I didn't like it. So it's a
Uh-huh.
pretty simple recipe. It's just a lot. It's just, and I mean, I don't even have the equipment for something like that, for that
Yeah.
volume.
So the Zeppelis, is that like the fried dough that you get at the carnival
The
or?
Italian fest, yeah. Well, we used to get
Oh,
a St. Rocco's Fest in Elizabeth, New Jersey. You get a bag. I forget how many you get for $1 with a lot of powdered
yeah.
sugar. And don't ever inhale while you're putting one in your mouth, or you will choke.
Right. Like the cinnamon challenge, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right. So I know you talked about um because you love to cook. Because my next question was going to be, why did you choose this industry? You know,
Hmm.
and I think you touched on that. It's just because you love to cook.
Yeah, it's not just that I like to cook, because I think a lot of people enjoy cooking. I love the faces people make when they bite into one of my empanadas. Like, oh man, that was so good. Or I have kids saying, giving me adjectives to my food I never heard of before. and they just, I really like the look on people's faces, the compliments, the high fives, the atta girls. I love it. And, and my family, I have three boys, a 32-year-old and 20-year-old twins. And my boys grew up eating my food. They will refuse any fast food as long as I can cook. It's like most kids were like, yeah, it's McDonald's. Nope, not my kids. My kids always wanted me to cook. And I love that. I love that. I know what I'm putting into their bodies. I know what I'm feeding them. And, knock on wood, everyone's healthy, knock on wood. So
now I'm going to throw something at you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a new marketing scheme for you.
Uh-oh.
You got to get somebody who's crafty to build you a frame, right?
Okay.
And then they have to eat your empanada in that frame that you take a picture of them eating that with their face, and you hashtag, whatever.
First bite.
410 empanada face or something.
Okay.
And then, you'll start this trend for your food truck.
Yeah, you know what? That sounds like a good idea. I love that. Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no.
I like that.
I'm full of them.
Yeah, John's handy, so I'm going to put him to work.
See, there you go. And the frame could be orange with some Oreo stuff around it.
Yes, orange and black.
And empanadas hang up of it or something,
My little logo. I don't know if you've seen our logo, but we have and we have him trademarked. He belongs to me, and his name is Empanada Joe. Started off as Empanada Jose, but he is now Empanada Joe. Yeah. And he's my little guy. So yeah, I love to put his little face on there too.
There you go. You could hashtag empanada, like Empanada Joe's nose, his face or something. We'll come up with it.
Absolutely. We'll come up. You'll see. It'll get done.
That's awesome. There you go. So what are some of the challenges that you face?
I guess the challenges is time is more of, I guess, our biggest challenge. I am not out there full time. I'm not out there Monday through Sunday or Monday through Saturday in the morning. We don't do breakfast crowds. We don't do lunch crowds because, again, I work. So all my events we book from 4:00 on. I'm up at 4:00 in the morning every day. I leave my house by 5. I'm at work by 6. I leave at 2. I'm home by 3. So then I do events after that. I get a lot of vacation time at work as well. And a lot of my vacation time goes to that. Since my boys aren't little anymore and I don't have to stay home because I got sniffles or anything like that. I use a lot of my personal vacation time to do events, the events that we have to be there earlier. I have a great boss. I really do. I have an amazing boss. I give him my list around January, February, my entire history, my whole schedule. These days I'm leaving an hour early. These days I'm leaving 2 hours early. These days I need off. And that's just the way we work. So it'd be, if I had more time to do it, it would be great. One day, I'd like to retire early from work. Maybe once the boys graduate from college. And then, do this more on a full-time basis. We also want to do a brick and mortar at some point down the line. So, I guess our biggest challenge is time. I wish I had a little bit more of it so that I can go out there a little more and feed everyone more. And,
you're too good at this because you keep taking my questions away.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I know. Well, maybe you can get on the truck and I'll sit on your chair.
Because that was my next question was, do you foresee yourself making a brick and mortar store with this? And what about franchising?
Yeah. Well, we have been approached. I lost count on how many times people have not just emailed me like those spam. Actual people coming up to me saying, we want to franchise you guys.
Right.
And Chuck, I have worked too hard and I am getting too old to be sitting here and giving people my money. And I'm not doing that because they want a huge chunk of our, like 10%, 15% of this. And I'd rather just open my brick and mortar. And if it goes well, then open the second. If it goes well, we'll open the third and fourth on my own. I don't know if the whole franchising, maybe I don't know enough about it. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe it's not that way. But from what I've heard, it's almost like somebody's taking over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so there's another podcast that I listen to on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
When you text me when we're finished this interview and we start having this correspondence,
mm-hmm.
I will send you the information. This guy specializes in franchising. That's what he does.
Okay.
And from what I listen to, that's why I ask people when I talk about these smaller businesses, because when I listen to this guy talk about it, I'm like, it's such a good idea to franchise. because there's so much you can do with it,
Yeah, and I'll tell you why I thought it was a good idea. First of all, I never wanted it. I just wanted a food truck, part-time, help with bills, help, put our boys through school,
Right.
and so on and so forth. Then it became more of a, okay, well, I like this a lot. Let's keep doing, like I've never once, not once in almost 5 years have I ever dreaded putting my foot inside that food truck.
That's great.
I look forward to it. I enjoy it. The people, they're great.
Yeah.
I know people have a lot of bad experiences with customers. We all do. But honestly, I'm going to have to say 99.9999% of my customers are amazing people. They are. And I hate using the word customers because to me, they're like my friends. For
Right.
you to come up to my truck and and buy my food and consistently come back over and over and over. That's not a customer. That's a friend. You know what I mean? They're supporting us. Yes, they're getting a good product, but they're also support. If it wasn't for them, we'd be nowhere. I'll tell you, within a month of us opening our food truck at the lot that we used to park in Aberdeen, Chuck, if we were making $50-$60 a day, it was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one time sitting there in the corner and I was just crying. I said to my husband, what did we just do? We just emptied out our bank account and we made the biggest mistake of our lives. I said, now it's not like I can return the sink or I can return the flooring we put up. I said, we're in trouble.
We're done with this. We'll just return it now.
Oh, I said, what a mistake. And then, then we got one little opportunity and the next with the next. Now I'm put it this way. Today is what, the 20th of? Yeah, today is December 20th. And I am 110% booked for 2023. I don't have a single date open. I'm booked all next year.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So
what a great feeling.
Yeah, right? It is. It is good. And honestly, I have to do it that way. I'm not saying I'm the only truck. I'm sure all trucks can do it. There's amazing trucks out there with amazing food. But because of my full-time work, I don't have the leisure of saying, yeah, maybe I'll do it next. No, I have to know what I'm up against so that I can plan my personal life and my work life around my food truck. And I do. I live my life around my food truck.
That is good.
So I try to put a lot of our time and our thought and our love into it so that, we could be out there. And we are, I'm not saying we're the only empanada out there, but that I know of, we're the only food truck out there with empanadas. And it's, I would like to franchise it, going back to that question, because I can't be everywhere at all times. So I'd like to, kind of spread it out there and put it out there. So you know what? I will be taking that info from your friend. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
You just never know what possibilities can come out of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's interesting because I hope whoever is listening to this podcast listens and hears this part. I was driving down 95 towards DC one morning. It was kind of early. And this food truck kind of passes me. And I just kind of glanced at it. And now remember, we're driving down 95.
Right.
And I look over and I see these two women because he had the back doors open with the gate up.
Yeah.
And I look over and there's two women back there cooking in this food truck while it's driving.
Oh my goodness.
So I kind of hit the gas and catch up because I wanted to see what truck it was. They were making pupusas. So it was a El Salvadorian food truck.
And they were cooking while the truck is rolling on the highway.
They were rolling down 95, cooking pupusas, man.
You know what?
That's great.
Those are determined women, let me tell you.
Right?
That's determination. I don't have that kind of determination. I'm sorry. I value my life too much.
How do you cook on a food truck while it's driving?
I don't know. I'll tell you, sometimes John has to roll the trailer off these the lifters that we put the tires on, like for balancing these little trucks that we have.
Right.
And he'll say, hey, just give me a minute. I'm gonna just pull the truck up just a foot. It's literally 6-7 inches he's pulling up, and the trailer shakes so hard. I cannot imagine driving down 95 making food. I would lose my balance and probably break my neck or something.
Making empanadas while you're rolling down 95.
Oh, no way. That is nuts. I wish you should have taken a picture. That's awesome. I would love to see that.
And I tell you, I think what I'm going to do is start digging around on the internet and find out who they are. I got to interview them.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be good. Yeah, well, while you're interviewing them, she's probably going to be making food too. So you're going to hear a lot of clickety-clacky in the back.
And sizzling of the beef cooking.
Oh my! And it's funny because pupusas are a lot like empanadas. Empanadas. Indians have samosas. You know, and as El Salvadorans, Bolivian, a lot of Central Americans have pupusas.
Pupusas.
Yes, and so it's basically, it's just, you know, it's dough filled with deliciousness, you know, something good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so yeah, I
Because when
love
they
a good
take their
pupusa.
first bite, and you got to get a picture of their face, and when you're going to
Yes,
frame it, and you're going
when
to
the
put it on
eyes
your,
rolling back, yes,
and you're going to put it on your social media, and
I
people are
am.
going to love it. See that? I
Absolutely.
gave you that great
Absolutely.
idea. There you go.
Thanks, Chuck.
You're very welcome. Absolutely. So, you know, one of the final questions here, and I think I'll touch on a little bit, but I think, you know, how has the pandemic changed your business model? You know,
Um, it, God, I hope this doesn't sound horrible, but it was like the best thing that ever happened to us.
there's
You
people
know?
have said that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
okay to say that.
I feel bad
Yeah.
because I just know personally how many restaurants had to close down, you know,
Yeah.
because they weren't allowed to seat anyone, you know,
Yeah.
and staff would get sick and this and that, and the hours weren't there and the prices are through the roof. And so, but somehow, luckily, the governor, I remember when there was an email that came out, something about luckily that mobile units and mobile trucks, you know, food trucks, were allowed to stay in business as long as we followed through with, you know, keeping proper hygiene and proper, you know, cleaning
Yeah.
and this and that, just, you know, offering, you know, the mask, you know, just going, you know, whatever they mandated, as long as we followed it, we were allowed to stay in business. And so we just did what we had to do. I've never bought so much sanitizer in my life. And anything that was, you know, bacteria, this, you know, and every order was now to go versus, you know, because we serve our food. A lot of trucks do their food always to go. I don't. I try to be very environmentally conscious, and as far as, you know, extra waste. Some foods you have to do it that way, like a pizza, you have to put it in a box. You know, they're not gonna give you pizza on a plate. You know, they have to give you a whole pie in a box. I get it.
Right.
You know, certain sandwich soups you have to put in a container. You know, I get it. But my food, it's fried, and so I have to put them in. And we usually put what you call a boat. You know, we have our logo paper. We have wax paper with our logo on it, and we put on a boat when you're eating right there at the brewery, at the event, whatever. But with COVID, we decided to do everything to go. You know, closed containers. So everything was, you know, we used containers. We sealed everything. We used, you know, and we also incorporated online ordering, which we never really had. You know, so we incorporated online ordering with foodtruck.pub, and which is a great little system. Doesn't cost us anything. They help small businesses, and we just updated our menu. People would order. They'd give, you know, we opened up different time slots. They'd say, we'll be there at 3:30. This is my name. This is my order. Here's my payment. And then at 3:30, their order was fresh, hot, ready to go. And there was very minimal interaction. We also changed our credit card system, where no more signatures. You know, anything under $100 is just tap and go. I don't need your card. You don't have to sign, nothing, tap and go. They had theirs, we had ours. And so we try to follow all the rules and regulations, of course. And because people were, I mean, we were hibernating. That's what I call it. We were hibernating, you know, locked up inside our houses. So when we would go to a development, and we would let people know, you know, a week, 2 weeks ahead, hey, on this day, we're going to be here. And people would, you know, orders would just start piling in. I mean, we were sold out before we got there. Orders would just start piling in, and we have it all ready. And then we get there, start frying and boxing. And it really kept us afloat. And I can't tell you how many people said thank you to us for that.
Yeah.
Like, thank you, because we can't go nowhere. My favorite restaurant's closed, or, you know, my mom is sick, or so-and-so, or the kids are, you know, just these 5 minutes walking here, I got a little piece for my kids, or whatever it was. And it just felt good that we could still provide a little normalcy and to a time in our lives where we felt so abnormal. Everything was just so upside down. And so, I mean, I'm 49 years old, and in my life, I'd never, ever experienced anything like this. You know, no closure schools. I mean, that was unheard of. So it was to me, I mean, the pandemic was in itself horrible, you know, but for business, for us specific, for 410 Empanadas, it was a blessing. It really was. It really was a blessing.
Right. And that That's awesome, because there's a lot of people, I talk to about that. They have the same kind of story, to where,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they know friends who have lost, several restaurants because, you can't seat people,
Right.
and they go out of business because you're not allowed to open.
Right.
And then you have stories like you, where people are like, this is the best thing that's happened to me. I'm out there, I'm able to cook and provide food for everybody, and
Right.
it's made me a killing.
Yeah.
So you
It
have
really
both
has.
sides of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's really a shame that, you know we ended up where we did. But I'm very optimistic, and that's why I do what I do with my business, because I know restaurants are going to rebound from this, and they're starting to now, and there's
Oh,
plenty out there who,
absolutely. Absolutely.
right, and there's
Absolutely.
plenty out there who are thriving and surviving, and I want to help them.
Right. Absolutely. And we appreciate it, because believe me, we all
Yeah.
need that push. We all need that help. And
Yep.
yeah, that's why I kind of feel bad. I mean, I feel bad when I say, oh, it was a blessing to us, because I know how it was the opposite for so many. Me personally, my husband and I personally, we know people that after 20 something years in business, they had to shut down, and they were not even near retirement yet. So it's not like, oh, well, we'll just close down early. No, it was bad. It was really bad. And I really feel bad for those folks. And, but I always feel like, I'm not trying to get religious, but I just feel like God always hands you whatever he knows what you can handle. And I felt like we did what we could with what was handed to us, and we went with it. We just crossed our fingers and said, let's see what happens now. And
Right.
it was, for us, it was a blessing, but we also learned a lot from it too. We also
Right.
learned a lot, what not to do, what to do, and learn from your mistakes and move forward.
Absolutely. And I'll talk to you a little bit after. I got another thing I want to talk to you about too, about an app that I had developed
Oh,
that would have really helped during COVID times. But I wasn't the best at trying to find investors, so it just kind of fizzled. But it's okay. I mean, it was a rough time for everybody,
of
and
course.
nobody wanted to do anything.
No.
And that's just how it is.
Yeah, yeah, and it's still tough, like you said.
Yeah.
With the whole brick and mortar. Going back to that, my husband always says, Gladys, I don't know. I don't know. He says, how are we going to find staff? Seems like it's hard just to find staff and and keep staff, in because we hear it from our friends. We have friends that have restaurants. We have some friends of ours that have a restaurant and 2 food trucks, and and they have great staff. I mean, I've met a lot of them. They're great girls and guys, but that's rare, to find staff that's willing to stay or that wants to work. I'm not saying everybody's lazy, nobody wants to work. It's just, it's difficult in this industry to find, because we are, mind you, my food truck has no AC. I have no heat. So right now, when it's 32 degrees outside, it's probably 28 in my truck. It's cold.
Yeah.
There's no heat, so we do warm up with a little bit of heat that comes out of the freezers. And my husband tries to adjust the fryers to blow some of that heat inside the truck. And that does help. But summertime, to ask someone that you're paying $12, $15 an hour, hey, by the way, it's gonna get about 110 in here, but it's only 6 hours you'll be here. No big deal. It's a lot to ask someone,
Right.
because this past summer, the
It
highest
really is.
it was 113 in my truck one day. No, we were in Darlington. I said, John, I am literally going to melt in this truck.
Oh,
It gets very hot, and there is no cool. I mean, there's 2 fryers at 350 going on. We are in a small confined space. Again, we have a very, very small trailer, small. So that heat just stays in there, and
yeah.
health department code, I cannot open my back doors. I can't open, everything has to be closed. So it gets very hot. So to ask someone to work for any amount of money in those conditions is tough. I don't blame them. I
Yeah.
do it because it's my business, but you couldn't pay me enough to do it, for someone else. I really couldn't. I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's difficult, but so hopefully one day when we get there, we'll figure it out. Like always, we'll figure it out.
So how far out is full time for you on this food truck?
How far out is
Well, 5 years, 4 years, 6 months.
I mean, my boys, my company provides health insurance to my children as long as they're in school till they're 26. They just turned 20. So hopefully by the time they're 20, and maybe 6 years,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we'll see. I mean, the way things are going, I'd like to be full-time now, but unfortunately
Yeah.
I can't give up my pension, my 401k, my benefits, it's hard to give that up, after so
Yeah,
many
absolutely.
years,
Right.
26 years under my belt. It's like to give that up now. It's like, even though the food truck I love more, I just can't,
Right.
financially and ethically, I just can't do it right now.
Yeah, it's a great commitment,
Yeah, it is.
to know that family comes first, even though the empanadas are reigning king, but the family has to be first.
Right. And right now we're very comfortable the way we're doing things. I mean, honestly, Chuck, if I took on more jobs, that's just, I don't know what time I would have to actually make that happen.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we're bringing hundreds of empanadas to each event, and we are coming back with empty freezers just to restock again and do it all over and do it all over and do it all over. And again, I don't mind. It's just like the more events we take on, just the more I have to make. And just, again, there's that word time,
Right. Yep.
So,
all right. So do you have anything else you want to add? Or
well, yeah, actually, we never have any specials. We never do coupons or anything like that because, we just never had to or just never really thought about it. But here's something for you. How about anybody of your listeners, hopefully now our listeners, that comes up to my trailer when they see me anytime? I'm not saying, it expires January. No. For the rest of 2023, you come up to me and tell me, I heard your podcast. You'll get a free empanada of your choice, whether it's savory or sweet, whatever, one empanada of your choice on us as a way of saying thank you for listening and supporting us.
Wow, that's awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
And that includes you too. And that includes you too, Chuck.
Well, I think I can eat about 10 or 15 empanadas myself.
Okay. Absolutely. Come on down anytime you like. We are doing, by the way, we're doing New Year. I don't know if I could promote here, but we are doing New Year's Eve at Hopkins Farm Brewery. We are there from 12 to 7:30. They do a yearly keg drop. They actually literally drop a keg for New Year's. It's amazing. It's really cool. And we do it every year with them. So come on down.
That sounds interesting. Yeah, I'll have to check that out because I don't think I have any plans. I never really make plans for any holidays or anything because I just never know where I'm at or what I'm going to do, what I'm going to be doing. And, so I kind of leave my calendar open for stuff like this, Yeah.
Well, come on down and you'll be home early, because I think they close early. I think it's around 8 o'clock because of the holiday. So, you can come on down and have some food. They have amazing beer. And it's a great place. All these brewers are amazing. There's not one better than the other. They're all amazing, but that's where we're going to be at on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, that's all. I really appreciate you mentioning it to give us that offer of a one free empanada.
Yes, of your choice. Absolutely.
Of your choice. And I really appreciate that. That is awesome.
Yeah, no problem. Really anytime.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
There you have it. Anybody listening, reach out to you. Now, I guess last thing in closing is how do people reach out to you? So you have Instagram and Facebook?
Yes. So right now we are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Again, I don't really know how to use Twitter, but you're welcome to use it. Messaging, they can call me on my cell phone, 757-513-2295. You can call, text. You could email us at 410empanadas with an S at the end @gmail.com. The website, again, it's down. Hopefully it'll be up soon after we speak to Chuck and get some advice. But that's the best way to reach us really is through probably through social media. It's the best way to reach.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Well, Gladys, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time to interview with me and offering up that free empanada. That was nice. Appreciate that.
No problem.
And absolutely. I will talk to you soon. We'll chat after this.
Okay.
And see what we can do to drum up some stuff for you.
Sounds good. Can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Chuck.
Thank you so much.
Have a good holiday, guys.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Q.A.C. Team podcast with your host, Charles Luttrell. Today, we took you beyond the restaurant table and into the kitchen with leaders and business owners in your community. For more information, visit us at QACteam.com or Facebook and Instagram at QAC.team. Thanks for listening.